Ladies and gentlemen, AEW Dynamite review. What a show it was. Reviant R in the building on Twitter. How's it going, Reviant?
Man, it's going good. It's going good. Honestly, we had a little bit of a technical change with the card. What we were supposed to have with Jon Moxley and Brian Kendrick turns into Jon Moxley versus Yuta.
Yes, indeed. And that is where we're going to start. Jon Moxley versus Yuta. He steps in for Brian Kendrick. And this one was... I appreciate the fact that Yuta got him a little bit more offense than the last time he faced off against Jon Moxley, where Jon Moxley just tore him apart in what was basically a squash match. A decent match, to say the least. They got the crowd up on their feet a couple of times. Jon Moxley picks up the victory, obviously, with the paradigm shift. What did you think about this match?
Man, what do I think about this match? I thought it was a really good match, but what the hell? Like, Danhausen, of all people.
Yeah,
I love the guy. I love the guy when he's in Ring of Honor. But now that he's signed to AEW, oh man, he's aligned himself. He's aligned himself with best friends Yuta, Orange Cassidy, and Chris Statlander. This could be very good and very evil.
I'll say this about Danhausen. Obviously, we're fans or whatnot, but I would like to see a better presentation. Like, I guess in AEW, I would like to see, like, what is his motivation? Why is he here? Because he appeared last week, and it's like, okay, that's Danhausen. He appears this week, and he's with, he's aligned, like you said, aligned with Orange Cassidy and the best friends and whomever. But I like to see, like, okay, this is why he's here. Give him some kind of, promos, some kind of backstage stuff, something to explain his alignment and where he is in AEW. And maybe we'll get that going for it. But yeah, that's where I'm at on Danhausen.
Yeah, I can understand that. And honestly, like after the match, we see Bryan Danielson show up.
Yes, sir.
And explain that they should team up. That could be the most dangerous and most interesting tag team that we could see in AEW.
Well, I'll say this. He proposed a tag team. He proposed that Moxley could go after the World Championship. He also proposed a stable with Lee Moriarty or Daniel Garcia. Very Evolution-esque, if you ask me. But here's why, in theory, Bryan Danielson and Moxley together is awesome. Sounds awesome. But here's why I don't want to see it. Because we got a lot of tag teams. AEW, in their rightful position to prove that tag team wrestling matters, they've had so many tag teams to where guys like Santana and Ortiz and Private Party are in the background. And if you bring in Danielson and Moxley, you kind of got to put those guys towards the top in a path to the tag team titles. And I think that there are too many teams kind of on the bench for there to be a Danielson and Moxley tag team. What do you think about that?
But then there's also, but you cannot forget the Kings of the Black Throne. They're the most dangerous team out there right now.
Tag team.
Because of the history that the Kings have. And yes, the Kings of the Black Throne, who are members of the House of Black, remember, I'm a follower of House of Black for a lot of reasons. And this was way into the stint that Malachi Black had, during his tenure with WWE. I was a member of House of Black, and I continue to be.
Yes, indeed. That's a very exciting. We'll get to them later on in the show. I'm excited about that tag team. I'm excited, more so excited to see, okay, where is this going and what is the ultimate plan for the House of Black as in AEW. I would like to see where we go with that. But Danielson Moxley is still out there. Where's that storyline going to lead to? A lot of positions, a lot of areas they can go down, and we'll see where it goes. Moving on, we had Brandi Rhodes in the ring, and she had a promo off with Dan Lambert again. That led to Paige Van Zant coming out, and we had this big pull-apart brawl between Van Zant and Brandi. I'm gonna let you take the floor first on it.
Van Zant and Rhodes. Oh my God! Wow, that in and of itself was crazy. Like you have a mother of a biracial child going up against a powerhouse in the featherweight women's division.
Right. I gotta touch on a few things in this promo. First, if never forget that the whole point of Brandi Rhodes versus Dan Lambert was the fact that Cody Rhodes was getting a shot, or was the TNT champion, and Scorpio Sky wanted his shot at the TNT championship. Now that Cody Rhodes has lost the title, like this whole thing should have been over for me. It should have been over. Cody Rhodes is no longer the champion. That's one thing.
And it should have been. To your point, it should have been. But honestly, Scorpio Sky, he never got a shot. He never got a shot against Sammy. He never got a shot against Cody. He never got a shot. And that really irritates me to a point. Tony Khan understands. Tony Khan needs to understand that there are plenty of deserving guys.
Yeah, and Scorpio Sky is one of them. Like, ever since he's going to top team, he is just going down the drain. And we've talked about that countless times. Yes. He's very deserving and deserves more. Moving on, Brandi Rhodes' promo, she talked about how Dan Lambert is only there because he wanted to get to Josh Alexander. And the whole AEW thing of downing your talent to uplift someone else at another company, I hate it. And I hate it when they do it with WWE. When she talked about how Dan Lambert is a wannabe Paul Heyman. Like, Josh Alexander, don't get me wrong. Walking weapon is incredible. So I love the guy. Don't get me wrong. But, like, you don't have to bury your own talent to uplift someone else. That's something I didn't like from the promo. Dan Lambert going at Brandi. How long is that going to keep going? We see that nearly every week. And at this point,
and the whole thing with the discount, Paul Heyman thing. Oh my God, that is great. But honestly, Dan Lambert does make a few points, and honestly, me being in between, being a millennial and a Gen Z kid, excuse me for a moment. but the problem that I see is the fact that we are having these promos with Dan Lambert all the time, making this whole statement saying, he's a Gen Xer and he doesn't believe, the whole high flying, wrestling and these super kicks. And he doesn't believe, this whole Canadian destroyer thing, being a thing. But literally that's where we're at. If you look at NWA Power, I believe that there is technical wrestling in that organization. I believe that there is technical prowess in MLW, and so many other wrestling companies that there is technical prowess and technical, wrestling. But when you put on a 3-hour show like Monday Night Raw, you have to put so much baggage in that it's kind of, to the point, exhausting, and it's kind of, watered down.
Right. So I mean,
but with shows, like New Japan Strong. With New Japan Strong, I can understand, because I'm pals with Adnan. Shout out to Adnan, for NJPW Strong. Keep doing what you're doing. Shout out to you, brother.
But we'll see where it's looking like it's going to be Van Sant versus Brandi as we move on. Speaking of the Kings of Black Throne, they were in a match versus Penta versus Pac, The blindfold finally came off, and we had stereo dives to the floor in what was a pretty, I wouldn't call it a great match. I've seen better tag matches on Dynamite, but this was a good match nonetheless. The mist was set up, and Kings of Black Throne won the match. What did you think about this one?
Man, personally, as a follower of the House of Black, and as a member of both sides, I personally believe both teams were out for retribution and out for blood. It made sense because Malachi Black and Brody King, made it known, that they're not here to make friends.
Yeah.
Kings of the Black Throne, they're not here to make friends. I mean, that's an understatement. I mean, they have a lot of followers, they have a lot of worshipers, as they're putting it with the church. But literally, we've seen a metamorphosis with so many wrestlers because of the Kings for a reason. Take Julia Hart for an instant because of the eye patch and because of the blind eye.
Right.
We could be seeing the disintegration of the Varsity Blondes right then and there.
We could.
I mean that storyline needs to be expanded upon for so many reasons.
Right.
But to be fair, I think both teams did one hell of a job, and honestly, with what wrestling Twitter has been saying over the last few months, ever since the inception of AEW, yes, there needs to be a performance center, but no, there are plenty of wrestling schools. So really, the wrestlers from AEW get trained by Dustin, by QT, and even Cody. So, but
nevertheless, it was a fun matchup. We'll see how Pac versus the House of Black plays out, versus Pac versus Black. And that's a match I'm very much looking forward to. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
As we move on to Nyla Rose versus Ruby Soho, this was a match that was, it wasn't a great matchup. It was more of a match to get Nyla Rose back going. Nyla Rose picks up the victory at 10:48. And Ruby Soho she's in an interesting position. Ruby Soho. What was that?
Yeah. Ruby is definitely in an interesting position where she's at, trying to build momentum back into the title picture. But there is also this whole thing, with Nyla Rose, trying her best, to make herself look powerful, and really it's working for her. It's working for her with Vicky Guerrero and everything. And since she's a part of the Hardy family office, that only makes her more dangerous.
Right. And as for Ruby, like, she came in with a ton of momentum. And she had a ton of momentum in that TBS tournament. She didn't win that. She takes the loss here, and it's like, I thought Ruby was on the way to facing off with Britt Baker in the future for the championship, but it doesn't necessarily seem that way. So, yeah, she's in a very interesting position. We'll see where it goes with her. And yeah, we'll see.
And there is definitely some history between Ruby and Britt because this involves those two back in the Indies, and people don't even realize that. And this was way before. Adam Cole had bagged Britt, and this was way before. Now, honestly, I know wrestling Twitter is gonna be gunning after everybody, just because of AEW. But you and I are talking about it just to give our thoughts. So there's that.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of people who are in a very interesting position, Hangman Page was out, and he talked about how he's only had a couple of title defenses in his whole run so far, and he's ready to defend the title now. He demanded Lance Archer come out. That brought out Dan Lambert and Jake Roberts. They said a few things before Lance Archer just came out, and he was ready to brawl. And that resulted in Hangman Page getting put through a title. And Lance Archer is out. He's ready to fight. He's ready to win the championship. My question to you is, how much interest do you have in this feud as it's played out so far?
With the Texas Death Match, oh Jesus Christ! This is the first time that it's an official match, but for the world title. I think the momentum is definitely shifted from Hangman Adam Page to the Murder Hawk Monster Lance Archer, who is a very, very good person, not just with his Bible verses, but with his in-ring, skill and everything. But everybody needs to understand, whether you got a big guy who's IWGP US champ, or you got a quote unquote sad drunk who is the current AEW World Champion and who's the poster boy. Like really? Yeah. We're supposed to be making Hangman Adam Page a good champion, but there are a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people out there like Sean Ross, Dave Meltzer, Jim Cornette, Vince Russo. There are guys like that. There are guys like that, that try to hinder, Adam Page's title run. And I can honestly, see where most of these guys are coming from, but I try to see it from my own point of view, saying, where it's just a chill, title reign, but not being taken seriously at the same time. Go ahead.
Archer, I was excited about Lance Archer until they paired him with Dan Lambert. Like, that's yet to be explained. And once they did that, it's like, I have significantly less interest in Lance Archer as he tries to march to the world title, to which, like, in the first place, he just got a world title shot. And in AEW, normally they say you got to earn your way up to the championship. He didn't have to do much of that. And the Dan Lambert parent, like, let him stick with Jake Roberts. That's where I'm at on that. As for Hangman Page, man, he's lost a little bit of momentum. And look, I still love him as champion. He doesn't. I still believe that he does not need the championship taken off of him anytime soon. But it's like the crowd doesn't necessarily, especially last night in Chicago, man. When he was introduced, it was like crickets, and I'm like, man, it's Hangman Page. But I guess we'll see where that goes. Hangman Page versus Lance Archer. You have to imagine Hangman Page wins, but we'll see what's up next after that. Moving on, Chris Jericho. He was out, and he did not like how Santana and Ortiz did not tag him in last week because it was embarrassing and disrespectful. He did not like it, so he's going to demand a full Inner Circle team meeting next week. Attendance is mandatory. All I got to say is this, Reviet. This better result in the biggest beatdown of Chris Jericho that I have seen in my lifetime. Because how long have I been begging for Santana and Ortiz to be taken from the inner circle? It feels like years that I've been like, look.
For a long time, from both of us, yes. Yeah, there is so much on the line, with Kingston, Santana, Ortiz, because they were part of LAX.
Yes.
They were part of LAX because this was at different points with Santana and Ortiz, because they were with K-Dog, they were with Conan.
Yeah.
And honestly, with what is transpiring with the inner circle, Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz, I mean, we are having this inner circle summit next week.
Yeah.
Again. Like, this is kind of an ultimatum. With Santana and Ortiz, trying to choose a side, whether it's, inner circle or Kingston at this point. I mean, I love Eddie Kingston for what it's worth. He is a very, very good, uncle to Brody Lee's boys. I mean, that makes sense. It totally does.
Yeah, and I mean, at this point, I don't want to be the one to say it, but I'm going to say it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Chris Jericho, look, he's Jordan. Look, Michael Jordan made an all-star team once. Michael Jordan scored 20 points per game. Michael Jordan had some great moments as a Washington Wizard, and that's what Chris Jericho is right now. He is Jordan with the Washington Wizards, because it's time, man. It's time. He's to me, he's holding Santana and Ortiz back. I've always said the parts of the inner circle are greater than the whole. With Jake Hager not being a part of that. Now he needs the inner circle more than a Sammy Guevara needs it, more than Santana and Ortiz needs it. But those guys don't need the inner circle. So I'm hoping that all of this breaks up next week.
Sammy in and of itself. Sammy and Hager, they don't need it. They don't need the inner circle. They're good where they're at. But Santana and Ortiz, that's a whole different ballgame with them. Now honestly, with Santana and Ortiz, they need to focus on themselves. They don't need to focus on inner circle business. They need to focus on themselves and reaching for the AEW World Tag Team titles.
Yes, it's time.
So with the tag team titles, they need to do something spectacular. But since Jurassic Express has a target on their backs with the Gun Club and everything.
Yes, boy got sick.
And with Danhausen, cracking jokes and calling Billy Gunn's sons, the ass boys. I mean, come on, that's hilarity. Now that's hilarity.
Yeah, that's funny.
But the problem that I'm seeing, is because you have Christian involved, you have Marco Stunt, trying his hand at the Voice, which honestly I wish Marco very well in the Voice and on his journey. I really hope he pulls it out and hopefully he wins.
Right. But moving on to the final match of the night, MJF versus CM Punk. And going into this match, I'm like, okay, MJF has to win. And I look at the time, and it's like 8:15 when this match is taking place, and I'm like, dang, are they getting?
Yeah, it's like 6. It's like 7:15. It's like 7:15 my time. It's like 7:15 my time because honestly, I'm like an hour behind you. I'm like an hour behind you when everything like
right.
Like, damn. But the thing is that yes, we did have the tape. We did have the tape, that the MJF used to knock CM Punk out. But CM Punk got a second win knowing that it had to be. But the thing was, as people would know, they were not happy. They were not happy with CM Punk with CM Punk losing. They were not happy with.
Oh, it was in Chicago, hometown boy.
Yeah. And Chicago is no.
Before you move on from that point with the tape, like I was like, did CM Punk take a sensu bean? Like he just jumped up out of nowhere. And he's like all over MJF.
Oh my God! You making a Dragon Ball Z reference? Thank you for the anime reference.
He just jumped up. Cool. It's like Piccolo or Krillin popped him a sensu bean. Goku, here's a sensu bean. Like CM Punk just popped up.
It's still technically a green bean that helps, man. It's still technically a green bean that helps, man. Come on.
But nevertheless, as the match moved on, I looked at the time and I was like, they don't necessarily need 40-something minutes. But as the match moved on, I'm gonna give CM Punk and I'm gonna give MJF this. It seems like the greater majority of AEW matches are, let's go 100 miles an hour, and let's just run the match like this, up and down, up and down, up and down. And there are times where guys come in like a Bryan Danielson, like a CM Punk, and they prove that you don't have to, it doesn't always have to be about athleticism. You can start a match slow, do limb targeting, and build a story, and you can still have a whatever star match. And that's what MJF and CM Punk did.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you got
it. And the thing is, and this is and this was a closer to the match. Now, honestly, the closer to the match was a Dynamite Diamond. You know, bang, getting CM Punk knocked out with the Dynamite Diamond. You know, Wardlow passing the Dynamite Diamond to MJF, and I'm like, jeez, again, the Dynamite Diamond coming into play, MJF using it, and every time that he uses the ring, he knows that he can't win without having help, and that makes sense, because having your first loss in your hometown is detrimentally bad. And I'm saying that because you had the same place where you won your competitors championship, knowing that your contract was going to expire in 2014.
Great moment.
Exactly. And it was a hostile takeover in that company. And they lost their title. But the thing is now, 7 years later, we see the cracks begin to show, but not the way that fans are going to be thinking.
I'll say this much. I like, this is why I said it didn't need to go 40 minutes. I thought the false finish where MJF had CM Punk in the sleeper hold, I thought that finish was better than the Dynamite Diamond finish. And if they didn't go 40 minutes, they wouldn't have felt a need to put that false finish in there, and they could have just went with CM Punk's arm going down for 3, because that shocked the crowd. Because like, who loses in that? Who loses to the sleeper and with your hand going down to 3 anymore? So I thought that was a better finish. Nevertheless,
I mean,
I'll give him this.
Honestly, with that being said, like damn, who would go out with a sleeper again? And to that point, you know, you have Ryan Nemeth, you have Nick Nemeth's, brother.
Yeah.
And I'm like, honestly, you have both Nemeth brothers, being in opposite ends of the spectrum, with their wins and staples and stuff. Like really? Dolph Ziggler is at least the better brother when it comes to wrestling. But it's probably because he's working in a bigger company, he's working for a billionaire. But you have his brother, being the one person who completely is working for the son of the manager and founder of the Jags. And I'm like, really? That's kind of a lowbrow kind of thing.
Right. But sticking on Punk, MJF, here's what they can't do. You can't have
if they go a second round.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. If you go a second round,
I'm gonna let you have this. Go ahead.
You can't pull a Cena where Punk gets the win back. You can't do that.
I say again. Hell no.
Yeah. If you're gonna go a second round, MJF has to win again, or else this win here will be rendered meaningless, much like in Cena's feuds, where Kevin Owens would get the big shock win and then Cena would come back and then the big shock win would be rendered meaningless. So I don't know where they're gonna go with it. We'll see. But for the moment, all we know now is that MJF picked up the victory, and my hat's off. MJF needed that much more than Punk did, and we'll see where it goes going forward. So that is it for the AEW Dynamite review. Reverend, thanks for stopping in. We'll see where all of this goes going forward. Thanks for stopping in, man.
Thanks for having me. And we'll do this again, always on Thursday. And we'll definitely be able to talk about Impact when we have a chance. And oh man, the Bullet Club thing. Oh man, that takeover was completely fun. I know Marie was watching and she was happy about that.
Yes, indeed. It was outstanding. It was outstanding. So, all right, Reverend, thanks for stopping in. If I have any more time, we'll do this again, whether it be on here or on Twitter Spaces.